Did everyone come prepared with their numbers tonight? I'm just going to give a few minutes for everyone to come in. So tonight's topic is budgeting. If you don't know what numbers I'm talking about, let me post that in the chat real quick for you guys. All right, I just dropped it in the chat. So if you don't have these numbers, that's okay. You can work on it kind of when in the beginning. I'm just gonna go over some more foundation stuff. But if you can work on it, I'm gonna give you guys time today to work on your budget while we are doing this presentation. So make sure you have paper and pencil or a pen. And we can at least do the basics. If not, then what we can do is you can go back later on and what do you call it? Work on it more in more detail then. So I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. And let me know if you can see this. I would appreciate it. If you guys can see my screen, let me know in the comments, please. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. So while we're waiting, how many of you guys here on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all and 10 you're super confident in your budgeting skills? You can drop that in the chat. Okay. Got 3, 5, 4. So hopefully after tonight you will that number will go up and you would feel better about it. The biggest thing is to be aware of how to do it or have the knowledge on how to do it and be aware of being mindful of doing it either monthly or weekly or whatever you need to do until you feel better about it. All right. So again, my goal is to give you guys the foundation. Tonight we're doing budgeting and savings. I want you guys to take the info that resonates, and then I want you to explore it on your own. If you have any other questions, of course, you're welcome to answer me or ask me. Hopefully, I can answer it for you. Just a reminder that there is not one solution fits all for everybody. We all have different circumstances. So again, this is just a general um, information. If that makes sense to everybody. All right. Um, so last week, so I want to give you guys a chart kind of to understand how financial literacy really kind of goes, right? It's we last week we did the basic financial education. We're going to build up and we're going to help you guys start taking control of your money, which is including budgeting and savings. And the next one we're going to talk about is relationship with your money and then also how to start saving for retirement. Kind of at the peak is where you start having money to invest. maybe you start building passive income. And then really the down part of everything, this is where everything starts to go much more smoother, is building generational wealth, protecting and preserving your money. And then obviously at the end is to hopefully retire and enjoy your life. So budgeting. These are terms that I want you to be aware of and really comfortable with. A lot of times I think people use the terms back and forth or they use it incorrectly. So just start practicing doing it if you don't know these terms already. So gross income, you'll hear that when you're applying for things or when you're applying for a loan or maybe in your, a credit card, they'll ask for your gross income. This is your amount of money that you earn before any taxes or any other deductions come out of your paycheck. Your net income is your total earnings after taxes and deductions. So if you're paying child care, health insurance, and etc., that is your net income. Okay, we're going to talk about net worth tonight. And I think this is really important for everyone to know their net worth. So net worth, definition wise, is your wealth of you, a company, or maybe your household, taking in account of all your assets, debts, and liabilities. So remember, debt and liabilities, debt is money that you borrowed, and liabilities are your financial responsibilities. The rest of your house was a loan, right? Or maybe your car payment. You'll hear debt and liability kind of go back and forth, but not all debts are liabilities. I hope that makes sense. So a good example is a debt is credit card debt. A liability would be your house or a vehicle, or you putting up your house as collateral on, let's say, a business loan or something like that. So we are going to do an activity. We're going to figure out your net worth. So what you're going to do is you take all your assets. So if you have money in the bank, if you have money in the stock market, if you have money in retirement funds, if you have, what else am I thinking of? Any money is saved, maybe even your jewelry, if you collect precious metals, so like silver or gold, that would be assets. So you're going to take all your assets, you're going to add that all up, and then you're going to subtract your credit card debt, any loans you have, any mortgages you have. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. Go ahead and work out that number. And if anyone is brave, if anyone wants to share the net worth number, feel free to, but you do not have to, because I know money is a very I did not need to do that. I meant to. Let me. So let's say I have inherited a house that's worth $100,000. I'm gonna put that as my asset. Let's say I have $20,000 in the bank. So I'm gonna add that up. That's my total assets. Let's just keep it very simple. But let's say I'm $50,000 in debt altogether. My net worth would then be about $70,000. Does anybody have any questions on how that works? Need more time figuring that out. Not, maybe you can screenshot this and do it on your own if you don't have your numbers with you at this time. Um, so for example, Elon Musk, as of July 2024, he is considered to have a net worth of $195 billion. So that means, considering all his assets, all the things he has, all the companies he has, and real estate and all those things, and then he's subtracting it from all his debts, all his loans, all the company loans, all the liabilities he has. He is still evaluated at $195 billion, which is kind of crazy. I think even today, now that number has risen. So a net worth, I want you guys to know, it's just a snapshot of the moment, and it's just a calculation. It fluctuates. It's literally just a tool for you to understand, right? Um, Typically, your net worth will flow with the market. So when I say the market, we're talking about the business market, the economy, and typically probably the stock market. Any other questions? Any questions in that? All right, so I wanted to talk about liquidity because liquidity is really important when it comes to saving. And so when we're budgeting, I want you to think about how liquid your money is. This is important for you to have access to money, is for emergencies or events that requires like a payment today. A lot of times people be like, oh yeah, I'm worth $1 million because my house is worth $1 million, but it's not liquid money. You would literally have to sell your house, which would take time for you to have that money. So you can be, at a high rank of net worth, but the amount of money that you have access to right away can also be very different. So sometimes you'll hear people go, "Oh, what's net worth?" Okay, but how much do they have in liquidity, or how much of it is liquid? That is what they're referring to. So, does anyone need help figuring out what the liquidity is, or how liquid they are? This is just literally money that you have access to right away. No, you guys are all still there? Am I boring you guys? Not yet. Okay, good. So budgeting. Why is budgeting so important? So a budget is basically a guide for you to keep you on your path of reaching your financial goals. And this is why I've asked, and I'm going to continue to ask that you guys write out your financial goals. Um, I want you guys to keep working on your goals, because sometimes when we write out goals the first time and then we start doing the math and things like that, that also changes. So I want you guys to work on your goals weekly. And this is a great time because we're at the end of the quarter. You have the other 3 quarters of 2024 to evaluate and kind of look back at your spending habits to really start budgeting and working on your financial goals for 2025. Budgeting is important because it helps you keep you under control. It shows you where your money is following or is falling through, or maybe where you're overspending, or where you can then start moving money to make your budget work. Denise, being retired, budgeting is super important, especially when you're on one income. So this was an example on her finance piece. She makes really great like visual contents. So I really like this one because she broke it down into categories. So when you budget, this is how she budgeted her $1,600 paycheck for 2 weeks, and you can totally do that. I like to look things on a monthly basis. because I get one paycheck a month. But if you get two paychecks or three paychecks or you get paid weekly, then you can definitely budget the way you are paid or however it's easier for you to do. Um, so I want you to pay attention to this term sinking funds and then also account buffer. Those are important things to always account for in your budget. How much of it, like percentage wise of your budget, that's really going to depend on your circumstance, right? So somebody with kids, their sinking funds might look a little bit heavier, or it's going to be a larger amount every month. I have four kids, so I got to make sure, like, okay, if four kids get sick, I have the money to pay for the doctor's visits, etc. every month, right? So my sinking funds are going to look a little bit different. Any questions on this? I just wanted to give you guys a visual. So this is the three types of budgets. What you're going to do is you're going to take your net income and you are going to make sure your minimum is met. So I want you guys to take out your paper and pencil. This is where you're going to do some math, do some of your own budgeting, okay? Minimum budget, I call it the minimum budget, is if all shit went to hell and you got fired and you have no income, no nothing. What is the amount of money you need to pay per month to keep the basic things? So I just gave some examples underneath each category. This is going to be your rent, this is going to be your mortgage, your utilities, how much you're going to spend on food, gas, if you have a car note, insurance, renter's insurance or car insurance, things like that. If you have healthcare or medical bills that you have to pay every month, this will be your minimum number. So go ahead and work on this. This number is super important because it's going to tie into your emergency fund amount. So while I'm talking, you guys can start doing that minimum number because we're going to need it just a little bit. Your ideal and comfort is maybe you living like a comfortable life, right? So it's going to be everything from the minimum category, but you're going to move it over. You're going to start adding on. You're going to start saving money. So either savings or an emergency fund saving. Maybe, you're going to treat your kids out to ice cream once a month, right? Or this is going to be, for me, as birthday Monday. So planning for their birthdays. Are we going to other kids' birthdays? Or is it my spouse's birthday? These are more of the luxury things that we do, right? But the bare minimum is just literally your very bone structure of your budget or your bills. Ideal is going to be like me living a little cushy life. Something some people like to do is they like to invest. So maybe they like to throw $20, $100 into the stock market. Maybe some people like to buy scratchers. I don't know if call it investment, but some people do. So that would be the ideal comfort life budget. When we're talking about building wealth, and this is going to go towards the end of all my presentations, is when we're looking to take everything from our minimum or ideal comfort, and then we're going to go and look at luxury items. Maybe we go on multiple vacations a year. Maybe we're going to diversify our investments, right? Maybe we'll buy our house. Maybe we will buy a second house or a vacation house. Or we buy another car to rent out as a way of making money. And when we have this category, I call it the it's FU money. And I don't know if anyone here has heard of the FU money. If you have, please drop that in the comment section because I want to know actually how many people actually know that term. But yeah, so building wealth is something where you're going to be spending a lot of more money into the building wealth and passing it down. Ermi, you've never heard of it? Girl, you live in Florida too. Does anybody have any questions on this? Any kind like between the different type of categories? I hope I explained it very thoroughly. Yeah, like F you. Yeah. Like fuck you money kind of thing. Usually I think like celebrities will be the ones to really throw those terms around. Yeah. So I really want you guys to understand these three different types of budgets because I want you to start seeing where your budget falls under. Are you still needing practice on doing minimum, or are you okay? Like my budgeting is okay. I'm in ideal life, like ideal comfort. Um we can work on some things and some work tweak a few things here and there, or like you're like, hey, I'm at minimum, but I really want to build wealth. These are a really great stepping tool to get into the different categories of your budget. Listen, me too. So here I am. Okay. What is fuck you money? F you money. Okay. F you money is freedom money to live life on your own terms. Yes, Denise. Yeah. And sometimes we spend things on things without control because, sometimes that's how we cope or, whatnot. But I get it. At least, Denise, now if you're aware that you're spending on things that you don't really need to, then you can actually change it, right? When you're unaware of these things, then you don't realize what opportunities you've missed, right? Hello, Earth. Okay, so what is FU money? So FU money to me is having enough money to never work a 9 to 5 again. This means that you have enough income coming in, so you probably have multiple streams. And I'm going to use the term work loosely because most of the time people would think of work as 9 to 5. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't work 9 to 5. You usually work 9 to 9 or some kind of 12-hour mark of some sort of that. But the difference is that work is flexible. You don't have a boss typically. And work can be more of keeping you entertained, more of as a hobby kind of thing. And really being something that you can control, right? We don't really get to control our 9 to 5. We don't really get to control who our boss is and how we're going to spend our day. If today's going to be productive, it's not going to be productive, shit. You might even just show up, right? FU money gives you the chance to do that. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I want you to calculate your FU money. So if we're looking at using a 4% rule, which I'm going to teach in retirement section, if your annual income, you're like, hey Jenny, I live really great at $60,000 a year. Well, then you need to go fundraise $1.5 million. Only use 4% of that every year, and you will have to never work again in your life. Give or take. Does that sound kind of crazy? Why did you drop that on me? Are you dropping that because of the term, or are you dropping that because you never thought of how simple that is? Okay, I can say that again. Yes. So how you would calculate your FU money would be is what you spend annually to live comfortably. So the amount of money you need yearly. If you need $10,000 a year, I mean a month, then that would take you to 120,000 a year, and you would take that number and divide by 0.0. Sorry, 0.04. So here, let me show you. Show you. Okay. So essentially, let's say you need, let's pick an easy number, $4,000 a month to live comfortably. You're gonna times that by 12 to get how much your annual income you would need, which is about 48,000. And then you're gonna divide that by 0.04. And so you would need $1.2 million to live comfortably for the rest of your life if you've only spent 4% of that $1.2 million. Now, some of y'all are going to be like, "Hey, Jenny, the hell, fuck, I don't even make 200K." But I want you guys to get into a mindset of, hey, how do I get where I want to go, right? Um, so, well, awareness. You can't work towards a goal that you don't know, right? So if you heard me say, I live comfortably at 60,000 a year, and I'm going to divide that by 0.04, and you're going to need 1.5. So you're going to say, how many investments do I need to make to get to 1.5? You can't really manifest something if you don't know what you're asking for, right? Because when we do manifestation, we're looking at very particular, very specific goals that should be laid out. This is why it's so important to know how much you're spending, how much you're using, how much money you actually need. And that will really help you figure that out and you're requesting for it. Hope that makes sense. Does that number surprise anybody? Because when I first learned about that, I was so blown away. Um, yeah, it's quite interesting. All right, so we're gonna take this and we're gonna kind of go backwards. I want to ask you guys what monthly income is ideal for you to have a healthy budget. Again, this number is going to vary for everybody, but I want you to think right now. If you look at your list of what you're spending, all the things, all your bills, and you're like, shit, Jenny, I'm negative $200 a month. Or hey, if I had $300 more, I could do things that I want. I want you to start writing down that monthly income budget because this is going to go towards you figuring out what you're going to manifest for and what your goals and how your goals should be aligning with that number. And Denise, yours is going to be a little bit different because you're retired. Maybe you need to figure out what the ideal budget of investments you need to make, right? What will be your return of interest on those things while you are essentially working on that. Because you're retired, I don't want you to feel like you're also have no options or you're all locked up, if that makes sense. So I want you guys to take a moment. But yeah, Denise, I mean, just don't tell me no, but yeah. So if you so for me, you're saying 6K a month, for example. If that's going to be your healthy budget, then that should be your goal, right? If you're spending 5,500 a month on bills, and you're like, hey, I just want an extra 500 a month so I can do something with it, then your financial goal should be to make 6,000 a month. Does that make sense?
This is just us working it backwards. So earlier, I made you guys write down your list of how much you're spending. Now I want you to look back and say, how do I combat all this spending, right? So a healthy budget, if you're spending 5,500, maybe 6,000 is going to be your number. Then you're going to start manifesting for $6,000 a month. Yeah, I told Jessica she had a problem with her crystals, but she didn't believe me. She looked actually quite offended when I said that to her. Okay. So if you have not had a chance to do a budget, a practice budget, this is an example. So here you can lay it out as simple as this. Okay, if your mortgage is um let me just do this. Let's say your mortgage is $1,000 a month. And your utilities is 150 a month. You spend 600, yeah, let's say 600 for food. And your gas is 200. Um, let's say your car note is $325 a month, and your insurance is 100. Let's say you spend 100 here. Let's say your renter's insurance $10 a month. Let's say you don't have childcare. So if I add that all up, um, that would give me 2485. That would be um my total that I'm spending every month. So if my income is 2,000 a month, I'm already overspending by $485. So if you're having an issue like this where you're not making enough money for what you're spending, then when you break it down into categories, you can kind of see where you can try to cut back. So the the difference when we write it out like this is where we can really visually see where we can cut back. If I ask you, Denise, where can you cut back? You'd be like, oh, I don't know, because I'm already, stretching my dollar very thin, right? But when you're looking at this, could I spend $50 less a month on food? Could I maybe sell my car and not have a car note, right? Sell my car, maybe get an older car. Maybe I find a cheaper place to live at. Um, Maybe I walk or take a bike and I don't have to spend as much on gas, right? This is where it really starts helping you visually see where you can cut back and start making adjustments in your budget. Okay. Um, so again, where does your budget fall? Does your budget fall at, are we doing the bare minimum? And you guys do that? Or is this more ideal? Are you having enough money or income to support other stuff? Or are you supporting things that you can't really fund? Right. Um, so when you do your budget, this should give you a clear view of which categories um you do. What app do I recommend? I actually don't recommend any apps. I literally do it old school, paper and pen in a calculator. I What you can do is go through your bank statements, because I know a lot of things are automated now. Print out the last, maybe, shoot, you can even do this whole year, right? 2024. Print out each month and start doing a budget. Start breaking down your budget every month. Where did you spend a lot on for January? Where did you spend a lot for February? And things like that moving forward. And then if you really want to deep dive, is what months do you really spend money on? Okay, if let's say you spend a lot of months in December, well, it's Christmas, right? Okay, Christmas. Now you can start planning for Christmas. If you're saying, hey, my kids' birthdays all fall in the month of July, okay, great. Then you were gonna then learn to budget and save money for the month of July, right? Every month, every year, you're gonna be like, great, the birthdays are coming up. I'm going to budget for those things. And for me, I really recommend switching over to the light bulbs. What am I thinking of? The energy saving ones. Those make a big difference. And then also if you are your air bill or like your AC or heater is on often, like mine, using window shades to cover the air from escaping the windows. And then also making sure all the doors are properly sealed. Um, if you are renting, you may ask your landlord to do that to help you out. Okay. So let's say you're budgeting negatively every month. You're like, shit, Jenny, I am negative. I am spending $400 extra every month that I have no idea where, right? Gonna be spend $400 extra every month. You times that by 12. How much extra are you spending every month? Times that by 12, you're spending almost $5 grand extra that you don't have a month. And this is how people get into major debt, right? They start living off the credit card because they can't support the lifestyle that they're living. So trim down where you can. Cutting subscriptions, big thing. Maybe you don't have to cut subscription, but maybe you downgrade, right? All your subscriptions, going down to the bare minimum, watching commercials or whatnot. Cutting down your utility bills. Yeah, you'd be surprised. And so really I recommend you guys going through your credit cards, going through your bank statements and seeing what you're being charged for. Because sometimes they'll be charging you stuff that you don't even know that you have. Yeah, my husband was paying $200 a month for Stretch Lab. He called to cancel and they never canceled it, and he was paying like 6 months of it till I caught it. Anyways, we're gonna go past that. Taking public transportation or car riding with other people, right? Catching rides from people. Can you get, if you are on a super low budget, can you get free or cheaper foods available somewhere else? Are you eating out a lot? If you are, can you start cooking more meals at home? Because cooking at home is way cheaper than it is. Bartering for services. So maybe you don't have money, maybe you don't have a space to make more money, but then you can trade your skills, right? So let's say you know a cleaning lady and you're like, hey, I can watch your kids for 2 hours or 3 hours, and can you come and clean my house or something like that? I'm just using that as an example. That way you can still get your house cleaned, but you're just trading up for some of your time, just like you do at work, for services. And this doesn't actually add to your expenses, but still gets things done. Another example would be is if you like to cook or bake or something like that, maybe trading food for somebody with a skill set that you may need. If somebody's taking you around, or maybe even like, cutting your lawn or something like that. That's another way to help minimize your expenses. The other option is to find the missing income. So if you're saying I'm short $500, $500 a month, then I need to find another job that is going to support me in that $500. Also joining groups to find things that are giving away for free, so you don't have to buy it. You can actually get things without paying money for it. And then also like thrift shopping, right? A lot of people, I think it's very similar to couponing, thrift shops and then resells for things that they maybe know are worth a lot of money. So these are kind of my 3 tips if you're running negative every month. If you have any questions about this, just let me know, or if there's anything that you want to talk about, again, feel free to DM me because I know this is a sensitive topic. So, what happens if you're budgeting positively? So, this is where you're gonna start adding money to your savings or emergency funds. Ideally, you should have at least 3 months of emergency funds. So, you're gonna go back to that minimum column, and that amount should be saved. You should have 3 months of supply of that. Typically, it's 3 months because we usually say if we're having a health crisis, usually about 3 months are coming back in. If, giving birth, that would be it. What do you need a link to? I mean, um, if you, let's say, lose a job and then you're trying to interview and, um, what do you call it? By the time you get your first check, that's usually about like a 8-week process typically. So another thing you can do is invest in yourself. So I say it's investing in yourself because of retirement. A lot of people do not plan for their retirement. And I'm telling you to invest in yourself because you're worth it, you're worthy of it, and you deserve to retire. You do not want to have to work forever. You can do this through an IRA, 401k, or any other high yield savings account to start saving money for your retirement. And then the last thing you can do is improve your life. So you're like, hey, I'm always running around. I never have time for myself. Start cutting some of the things that you do and make your life easy, right? Or go on vacation if you haven't had one in a long time. So budgeting with kids. I know a lot of us have kids here. These are some ways that you can start talking about budgeting with your kids. And I want to really invite you guys to include your kids with money. I don't know how many of you guys were raised talking about money or learned about money, or if that's something you learned in school or as an adult. It's really helping them learn. Well, then really make sure that you know what you're talking about, and really also holding yourself accountable in your financial goals. So I wanted to do this. Teach Kids Money is she has a great Instagram. I believe she has a book too as well. She's a great resource if you want to learn how to teach your kids about money, and she'll even have like by age groups too. So I know all our kids are probably all different ages, but if you have like young kids, this is a great source. So I wanted to leave this quote in here because I thought it was really great that if you can take control of your finances today, you can literally create a life of possibility. So when you understand money and you understand the way it works and you understand how to utilize it and use it as a tool, you can truly, really create your dreams, right? So Irving, you said you want to manifest this, then we got to know the basics to really be able to get all of that going. Okay. Savings. This is money that you're not spending and you're not deferring it. And I mean, or I'm sorry, you are using it to spend it on something else later on. So let's say your daughter's your daughter is going to be driving soon, so you're like, oh great, she's going to need the car. I need to start saving for that, right? Savings account. These are different types of savings. This is a lot of information. I just wanted to throw out there. If you want to know the different types, screenshot it. Um, but these are different types. I personally know that we all know a traditional savings account. This is when you go to a bank or credit union, get your account. Money market, if you're investor or whatnot, if you have stocks, those are or 401k, those are all usually in the money market accounts. High yield savings accounts, these are typically not a brick and mortar bank. They're usually an online bank, but they typically pay out the highest percentage rate, interest rates. So if you have, let's say, $10,000, and you're like, hey, I don't really need this for like another year or two, I highly recommend you putting it in there, um, and putting in the high yield savings account to make as much interest as you can. What do I recommend for business? I would say you probably depends. And I think that depends on what kind of account, what kind of business you have and what kind of account you need. So for my husband, he does a little bit of both. He doesn't do a traditional, he does a savings account, he does a checking account. But he also has a high savings yield account um, for the business where he takes money and throws it in there because he doesn't quite need it. So if you have money like that you don't necessarily need to touch yet, then I would definitely recommend a high yield savings account. CDs, I know those were really big. Saving bonds were also big back in the day. Right now, CDs are paying pretty well. The only thing that I have with it is that it's locked up, so it's not liquid money. This would be something like if you're going to gift, I don't know, your grandchild who's going to turn 18 in 5 years, right? You can buy them a CD or a bond that, is for 5 years, and then they can get it when they're 18. That's fine. But I just don't like it because it's not liquid. So if you need access to it, they're kind of like SOL, right? So, emergency fund is I recommend for you to have a minimum of 3 months. I typically say at least six. If COVID taught you anything, it taught you that we were closed for at least a year. And a lot of people suffered, right? People, there are people who would recommend a whole year of income. I get mixed reviews on those. So I think it really all depends on you. If you feel like you want to save a year, save a year. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. If you're like, hey, I just need 6 months and I want to invest the rest, that's great. That's kind of the boat I'm on. Um, but I wanted to put this chart out there because I wanted to show you guys how many people overall have no emergency savings. And then some, have about 3 months, and some have about 3, 6, and then there's a good chunk that has also about 6 months or more. I wanted to show you this because wherever you are on this chart, I wanted you to know that it's okay. If you're not happy with where you're at, then now you know you can make changes and you're not the only one, right? But I think a lot of times financially, people are like, oh, everyone's so ahead of me, everyone's got it together. No, that's not the case. Everyone's just bullshitting their way through it like everyone else is. So I'll either A, give you a peace of mind, or B, tell you that you're okay in wherever you're at. This was done in 2024 of May. So this is a recent survey done by Bankrate. So now if you do not have an emergency fund, I really want you to focus on saving at least $1,000. That should be your first goal. And then once you get the hang of it, you're going to build and you're going to make your 3 month saving bucket and then a 6 month bucket. If you're like, hey, $1,000 really hard, I'm going to just tell you any saving is better than no savings whatsoever. All right. So emergency versus sinking funds. Sometimes these words get used together. I want to just kind of clarify. Emergency fund is only for emergencies, right? We're not talking about I forgot Johnny needs new clothes for school, right? No. Emergency fund would be literally if you lost your job or you got sick, or if you got into a car accident and you need to um, you know, put money down for a car to rent a car. This would be it, right? Sinking funds are little things that we are saving up for, right? So holidays, birthdays, maybe your car is going to need new tires. Those are going to be being saved in a sinking fund. So I just wanted to clarify that because I know a lot of people use it intertwining. So for me, this is kind of the ideal banking system. So we have a bank account. This is where all our money of our daily bills go through. So this is where all our childcare gets pulled, our electricity bill, blah 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 blah. Everything that we're paying bills for gets through this bill. Then we have a second account which holds our 6-month emergency fund. And the reason why I do not put them together is because sometimes I don't pay attention. I'm like, oh, we have money. Let me go on Amazon and buy, the 20 things that are in my cart. This eliminates that. I don't have like a credit card. I don't have a debit card to my emergency fund. So this is what makes it harder for me to spend that money. Does that make sense? And then sinking funds, vacation, big event, will have like a different account for that. Like, hey, we're gonna save up for this big thing. So maybe Ermi, for your daughter, you're gonna start. You make a big account and you put money into that. So if you have extra money every month, just roll it over into that account, right? Start building that. This will then, when it's not in your daily like ATM or your daily, card, you're not going to be spending it, right? Because if you put that money, you're like, oh, that $1,000 is for the car. You're gonna be like, oh, well, I have 1,600. Let me just go ahead and spend whatever I want. You're then not helping yourself with the budgeting. And then I like to have money in a different category, investment and retirement. So sometimes my husband will be like, oh, we're gonna buy some stocks. So I'm like, okay, great. So he'll just roll it over into our stock fund and use that to buy stocks. But anything that stays in the daily bills is what we pay our bills with, and nothing comes out from those other accounts. Does that make sense? When we start crisscrossing through all the different buckets, is when we start losing control of how we budget and spend our money. This is a lot of information, right? We all wait till we get to retirement. That is a big load too. So I just want to talk about inflation because I want you guys to think about it when we are talking about savings. So inflation is the rate of increases in prices over a given period of time. I think last year the inflation rate was like 7%. At one point it was 9. If you don't know what inflation is, it's literally the cost push or increases of items or of, of goods or even services due to demand, right? So this means that the price goes up and our money value actually goes down. And so historically, in the US, our inflation is about 3% every year. So every dollar that you have in the bank account is essentially losing 3 cents every year that you're in it. You would literally have to put 3 cents per dollar in the bank account to keep that same dollar buying power. So during COVID, it peaked up to about 9% at one point, but the average was about 5%. And I would still argue that we're about 5% now. I know they've just said it's dropped down to like I think 2.9. My grocery bills is high. I do not believe we are still at that percentage. But I want you guys to take into account when you are putting $100 in for, let's say, the year in your savings account, you need to be adding another $3 at the end of the year to keep that same $100 buying power. Does that make sense? And this is just another chart that shows you from 1944 to 2020 about the inflation. So you can see it peaks, right? And that's just very much economy, right? Economics, this is what I'm going to show you. But typically it stays about 3%. So Denise, you're retired. You want, you're not having income. You're gonna have to figure out what are you going to be investing in to keep your retirement money with that 3%. So ways to fight inflation is to reduce your debt, to really budget, right? Increase income and then preserve purchasing power by investing. So whatever you're earning, you want to earn at least 3% on it. So if you are saving $1,000 for your child when they turn 18. When they turn 18, they've already lost 3% of that. It's only going to be worth about, you know, nine, the mid to high 900s, right? Even if they gained the bank's interest rate, they really would have lost money because the bank's interest rate is like 0.0001% for every dollar you put in. So this is where a high yield savings account, if you're saving for a young child, this is where you really want to put money in, their money in to keep up with inflation. And I believe right now they're paying 4% on a high yield savings account, which is 1% higher than interest rates. So this is going to be your homework. If you did not do your budget or if you did not get to finish it during this presentation, I want you guys to figure out your 3 different budgets and then figure out your emergency savings account. Like I said, this is really important because you need to know your numbers to really have a successful financial journey. If you don't know your numbers, this is the time to really get to know it. If you want to have a strong 2025 financially, you got to know these numbers, right? Because without it, you're going to be just like a headless chicken just trying to figure it out, but you don't know what you're figuring out because you don't know your numbers. Also, I wanted to make a note that wealthy people do not put their money in random bank accounts. I mean, I'm sure they have some there, but typically they put their money in some forms of investment to keep their money strong and to also obviously make it grow. So this is really important to tie into our next section, which is money mindset is next week, and then we're going to start with retirement. So really have your numbers for next week because we're going to start figuring out what you need to retire. And then Denise, I may have to work with you individually if you want, but we can talk about what investments you'll need to keep your retirement money going. So you never run out of retirement money, essentially. Does anybody have any questions? Anything they want to ask? I'll turn on my camera so you guys can see me. Yes, have your numbers. That would be super helpful for next week. Any other questions? Nope. If not, then I think we are done for tonight. Next week we are going to do a little bit of money and inner child work kind of stuff, and then we'll start onto retirement. Yeah. Once I am done with all the presentations, I'll give you guys access to the slides. So yeah, but if anything else, just DM me. We can talk about it. Otherwise, you guys have a good night.